Welcome back, AP Computer Science A students. This is Mr. Vargas, and I am here to review the second practice free response problem. So I'm going to be reviewing AP calendar class, and I will have some questions for you to answer after I'm done with this review to make sure you guys are paying attention and you actually watch this video. And just like I did with Step Tracker, I'm not just going to throw up a solution and just explain it. Instead, I'm going to code it, and I want to do this to demonstrate the thought process that you should be using to answer these types of questions. And also, another thing I want to do is talk about scoring. So right here is the scoring guide for this question. And again, I like to do this because I want you guys to get an idea of what kind of will get you the points, right? And also because I think it actually will calm some of you guys, because you'll see that you can get a lot of points for just, in a way, almost for just understanding the question. If you understand the question and you have some idea of what they want you to do, you can get a lot of the points. All right, so let's talk about this question. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I already did a video where I introduced this problem. So what they're giving you, so this is the first thing you're going to see when you go to answer this question. You're given kind of a template for a class. And some of these, so it's the AP calendar class, that's 5 methods, but you are not going to have to code all 5 of these. In fact, you're only coding 2 of them. 3 of them are helper methods that you're going to use inside of the ones you actually have to code. So over here we have is leap year, and this returns a true or false. And then you're actually going to be using this to answer for part A, where you have to answer number of leap years. And the same thing, these 2 are helper methods. You're going to use these to answer part B, where you're going to be coding the day of week. All right, so let me jump into the first one. So A, so over here we're coding number of leap years. And if you notice, they tell you in order to calculate this value, a helper method is provided for you. So if you see a question where they tell you there's a helper method that's provided, use it, okay? In fact, you get a point for just using it on some valid year in the range that they gave you. So year 1 and year 2. So if you use it on year 1, you get 1 point already. And look at part B. In part B, even though I'm not talking about it yet, you get a point for calling for each helper method, just for calling it. There's not even any like kind of limitation. Just for calling it, you get a point. So if you literally just for B, if all you wrote in there was first day of year and you called it correctly, you would get a point. All right. Anyways, let's get back to answering this. So if you notice, it takes number of leap years, takes in a year, and then it takes in another year. And if you read this, you'll see that you're supposed to return the number of leap years between this year and this year. The helper method, you can pass in any year and it returns true if that year is a leap year. All right, so we're counting something, and then it returns an int. As you can guess, that int is the number of times it occurred. So we've actually done a lot of code where we've counted things, right? We've done programs where we've counted the number of even numbers, the number of fives, the number of numbers greater than a certain value, and they almost always have the same structure. Now, if you notice over here, I have a BlueJ project open. You might not be able to do this because, as I mentioned, the earlier methods, they don't give you the code for this. So you really, I'm doing it just because I feel like it's easier for me to demonstrate the solution if you have the syntax highlighting and everything. But you might not be able to code this on test day. You're just gonna have to write the solution out. All right. But anyway, so over here, public static int number of leap years. That's this right here. So I'm gonna answer this question, and I'm gonna be doing it right here so that you guys, so it's a little easier to read than if I was just typing in a Word document. All right. I have a comment here. Oh, I have a comment. This is just garbage. It's just a comment to remind me where I have to code. And then I have a return. I'm returning 0 right now. Again, that's just a placeholder because this returns an int. If I didn't have that in there, I would just get an annoying red error message until I fixed it. All right, so I mentioned we're counting something, and I also mentioned that it's always has whenever you're counting things, the structure is always really similar. Int count equals 0, and then down here you're returning count, and then inside of here somewhere count is going to be going up, right? Count plus plus. Now another thing that you might have remembered or recalled from whenever we're counting things, we tend to use loops a lot for counting, between ranges of things. So we're going to be using a loop here, and the solution I'm going to code is using a for loop, right? So for loop, for. Now where do we start counting from? Well, we're going to start counting from year 1. So for y, int y equals year 1. And then where are we going to stop? We're going to stop at year 2. Now, we're not going to stop at the spot before year 2. We're going to stop at year 2. So what that means is as long as y is less than or equal to year 2. How do I know that we want to stop at year 2? We want year 2 to be part of this loop, because over here in the question, they say returns the number of leap years between year 1 and year 2 inclusive. That's what inclusive means. Inclusive means that you have to count this range. If year 2, if the uppermost range, the uppermost year is a leap year, we want to count that. So that's why it's an equal. All right, so then y goes up by 1, y plus plus. All right, so we have our loop done. So we have written a for loop that starts at the first year and will keep repeating, right? Y is going to be year 1 and it's going to go up by 1. So if it's 2000, it'll go to 2001, 2002, 2003 until it gets to year 2. Let's say that was 2040. It will go all the way up to 2040. All right. So now inside of here, we want to increase count every time that the year is a leap year. All right. So the year is in Y, and it goes up by 1 each time. And if y is a leap year, we want count to increase. So we're going to use an if in here. If, now this is where the helper method comes in. They gave us a method. They told you use this method over here, is leap year, to do this, right? So if is leap year, did I spell that correctly? Let's see. Yep, is leap year. So what are we passing in? We're passing in the year that we're testing. We're testing y, right? Because y has all of the years, starting at year 1, ending at year 2. If y is leap year, then count goes up by 1. Count plus plus. Okay? Now, some of you guys, I bet, are going to do this. And that is actually perfectly fine. This is correct. I've noticed this when we did a lot of problems in class. You guys, even though we were doing something here that was true or false, you would do is equal to true. And you actually don't have to do that, because is leap year returns true if the year is true, if the year is a leap year, false otherwise. And the way if statements work is whatever's in here just has to evaluate to true or false. You don't have to do this equal equals true. If you do, though, you don't lose any points. You get it correct. But this is just more elegant, I think. So that's the first one right there. And I think this is the easier one. And what's interesting about the scoring is that this one is worth 5 points. So just for doing this, you're at the average already, and you haven't even tried part B. So let's go to part B now. Part B is a little trickier. I think the scoring is more forgiving, though, because you get half the points just for calling the helper methods. But this one's a little trickier. All right, so for part B, we're writing a method called number of leap years. And this returns, oh wait, no, wrong. For part B, we're doing a method called day of week. And what this is going to do is if you pass in any day, you pass in January 10th, it will tell you if that day is a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Thursday, or whatever. And then they tell you that you have two helper methods to help you, right? The first one is called first day of year. This helper method takes in any year and it returns what day of the week that year began on. So, for example, let's say, so this year in 2020, the first day of the year was Wednesday. So, first day of year would return. So, if the day is a Sunday, it returns a zero. Monday is a one. Tuesday is, so it would be zero, 1, 2, 3. So it should return a 3. So first day of the year will return what day of the week we are, but not, again, not as a string. It's going to be as a number between 0 and 6, where 0 is Sunday and Saturday is a 6. So we're going to use this helper method, and then we're going to use this other method called day of year. And what this method does is it takes in a month, a day, and a year, and it tells you what, like, if you put in like January 10th, it would return a 10 because that's the 10th day of the year. Okay, that makes sense. But if you put like July 1st, you would get, I believe, 182 because that's the 182nd day of the year. All right. So those are our two helper methods. Now, what are we supposed to do? Right? This method takes in a month, a day, and a year, and we have to say what day of the week this particular date is. We have one helper method, which gives us what day of the week we started on for this year. And then we have another helper method, which tells us how many days are we away from that start date. All right. So let's go into the coding for day of the week. And so, right away, again, I told you, if they give you some helper methods, you're going to use those. So let's use those two helper methods. So the first one is the first day of the year. We want to know what day of the week we are starting on. So we're going to let's call it start date. So int start day, I'm going to call it int start day is going to be first day of year, and then we just put the year, so year. So we're using this helper method. How does this helper method work? We don't know. We don't care. We're just told that it works. Okay, so this is gonna, if the first, so for example, for this year, we started on a Wednesday, so that would give us, right, again, 0, 1, 2, 3. So it would give us a 3. So start day would be, let me leave this return statement in here so this little red thing disappears. All right. So start date equals first day of the year. And then now we're gonna use the other helper method called day of year. So day of year, this returns how many days away or how many days into the year you are. So over here, like March 1st would return a 60 and so forth. All right. So let's call this nth day. Nth day equals day of year. And if you notice day of year, the way day of year works is day of year needs a month, a day, and a year. And so you have to pass these in. So these are sent in as arguments. We're gonna just pass them along to day of year. So month, day, year. All right. Right here, let's pause for a second. Again, the scoring. Like I said, this one, I think the logic is a little, can be a little tricky. But if you look at the scoring, we've already gotten half of the points for this question, right? So we're calling first day of year, we're calling day of year, and now we need to calculate the value and return it. So that's the other half of the points. All right. Again, let's say we were doing, again, I think an example is important for this. So let's say we were doing for the year 2020, right? So first day of year 2020 will return a 3. We already mentioned that. And let's say we were testing the 10th of January, right? So the 10th of January is a Friday. So this method, if it worked correctly, it would return 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It would return 5 if it's working correctly. So we have 3 in there. We want 5. Nth day, since it's January 10th, it's the 10th day of the year. It would have a 10. So we have a 3 here, a 10 here. We want to return a 5. So how can we do this? So we want to take the start day, right? Start day, and then we want to add the nth day, right? Start day, nth day. All right. So if you think about this, this was 3. In the example that we used, it was 3. The nth day is 10, so we would get 13. We don't want to return 13 though, because you remember the days of the week only go from 0 to 6. So we want to count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then start over again. So there's 7 numbers. We only want 7 values. And once we get to that upper limit, we want to start counting over again. All right. So this is where some of you guys are probably thinking correctly here. And this is where some of you guys maybe didn't get to the correct solution. You should be thinking modulus operator, because that's what the modulus does, right? It doesn't, if you do any number mod 2, the solution is always going to be either 0 or 1. It can never get up to 2, right? So we want to think about it. What number will always return something that's between from 0 to 6, but never get to 7? It would be modulus 7, right? Because think about it. If you do, 7 mod 7, if you're on the 7th day, 7 mod 7, you get a 0, right? 8 mod 7, you get 1, and so forth. All right, so this will give you a value, and I have an error in my code, which I'm gonna explain in a second. But let's just do int return day equals start day plus end day, and then let's do return day. All right. So this is almost correct. There's one little error. And the error occurs because the day of the year starts on a 1, right? The first day of the year starts at 1, but the days of the week start at 0. So it goes from 0 to 6. And this was kind of hard for me to explain in a way. I feel like I wish I could do this problem with you guys in a classroom, because I bet one of you guys would be able to kind of put this into words better than even I am doing right now. But really, this is where you have to kind of use test taking skills, and you need to test some values out. So again, let's use the example that we talked about, right? 3 and 10. So what's 3 plus 10? 3 plus 10 is 13, right? 13 mod 7. What does that give you? That will give you, oh no, wait, start day was 3. 13 mod, yeah, 13 mod 7 will give you a 6, right? Yeah, 13 mod 7 will give you a 6. That's not what we want. Remember, we said that we want a 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't want 6, we want 5. And if you do a bunch of examples, so this is where, before you submit your answer, you should go in and check different dates. You're going to see that they're always off by 1, and it's because of what I just told you, right? The first day of the year starts at a 1, but the days of the week start at 0. Your answer is always going to be off by 1. And you can fix this by just subtracting 1 from this operation over here. Let me put this in parentheses just to make it clearer to read. All right, so, and in fact, I think you might need to, because I think it'll do this operation first. So now let's do our math, or the equation out. So start day is 3, and nth day is 10, which is 13. But then we do minus 1, so that'll give us 12. So 12 mod 7 would give you a 5, which is what we want. And if you test several different days, you'll see that this right here will always work. Um, Now, there are other ways to do this. In fact, for this particular year, a lot of students did another solution that used the loop. And if you can do it, then that's fine. If you notice, the rubric doesn't say how you need to calculate the value, it just tells you you need to calculate the value. So this is a lot simpler, maybe more thinking is involved, but it's only one line of code right here to do the calculation. So you get 1 point for calculating the value, and then you get another point for returning the calculated value, and that's it. So this is AP calendar. So make sure you watch this more than once if you need. And hey, some of you guys already discovered this. I kind of didn't want to give it away, but the class that I had you guys join goes over this exact question. So and I know some of you guys discovered it because I could see your activity, but that's fine. It's really hard to practice these questions with you guys because all the solutions are kind of out there, but I don't want to make up questions. I'd rather give you real AP questions, and I just trust that you guys are really trying to understand them and get ready for this exam. So I'm going to stop right here. All right, have a good day. If you have any questions, let me know.